The wet dish towel hits my face with enough force to sting. For 3 endless seconds, I stand frozen in my son's kitchen, feeling the cold water drip down my neck and soak into the collar of my silk blouse, the cream-colored Chanel I bought in Paris 15 years ago when Richard was still alive and we celebrated our business hitting 7 figures for the first time. Brianna's face is crimson, her finger jabbing toward me like I'm some incompetent housekeeper who's just broken her favorite vase. "If you don't wash those dishes and clean this entire house, you're not eating anything here anymore," she screams, and I can see flecks of spit flying from her mouth. "Do you understand me? Not one damn thing." I'm 57 years old. I built 3 luxury boutiques from absolutely nothing, turning a $50,000 loan into a business I sold for $2.8 million 3 years after my husband died. I've negotiated with suppliers in Milan, handled demanding clients who spent $20,000 on a single outfit, and managed a staff of 32 people across 3 locations. And now I'm standing in a kitchen in Westchester, New York, being screamed at by my 29-year-old daughter-in-law like I'm a disobedient child. The dishcloth is still in my hands. I'd been drying a plate when she threw the other one at me. I fold it carefully, precisely, the way I used to fold silk scarves in the boutique. My hands aren't shaking, even though my heart is pounding so hard I can feel it in my throat. I place the dishcloth on the counter with deliberate slowness, and that's when I see Theo standing in the doorway between the kitchen and the living room. My son, my beautiful, brilliant boy who got his architecture degree from Cornell, who used to bring me drawings of buildings he'd design someday, who cried in my arms when his father died and promised me he'd always take care of me. Right now, he looks like he's been punched in the stomach. His face has gone pale and his mouth is opening and closing like he's trying to find words that won't come. "Brianna, that's enough," he finally manages, but his voice is weak, placating. Not the strong defense a son should give his mother who's just been physically assaulted in her own son's home. "Don't you, that's enough, me!" Brianna whirls on him, and I can see her chest heaving under that overpriced athleisure set she's wearing, the kind that costs $200, but she buys constantly despite complaining about money. "Your mother has been here for 6 months, Theo. 6 months. Acting like she owns the place, rearranging my kitchen, playing with Noah like she's his mother, judging every single thing I do with those cold blue eyes." "I've never said a word," I interrupt quietly, and my voice comes out steadier than I feel. "Not one critical word, Brianna. You don't have to say anything." She spins back toward me, and now I can see tears mixing with the rage on her face. "You just stand there looking perfect and elegant and rich, making me feel like trash in my own house, making my son like you more than me, making my husband wish he'd married someone like you instead of me." There's so much pain in those words that for a moment, just a brief moment, I feel sorry for her. But then I remember the last 6 months. I remember every passive-aggressive comment, every deliberately spilled drink I had to clean up, every time she moved my things or talked over me or made sure I knew this wasn't my home. I remember overhearing her on the phone with her friend Chelsea 2 weeks ago, laughing about how she was making the old bitch's life hell until she finally leaves. I dry my hands on my slacks. Italian wool, navy blue, perfectly tailored. Then I look at my daughter-in-law, really look at her, and I make a decision I've been avoiding for months. "You say that because you don't know what I have saved," I tell her, and my voice is calm, deadly calm. The voice I used when a supplier tried to cheat me, or when a landlord thought he could raise my rent 40% with 2 weeks' notice. Brianna blinks, some of the rage flickering into confusion. "What?" "Saved." I reach into the pocket of my slacks and pull out my phone. What I have saved. I watch my son's face change, watch the color drain even further as understanding starts to dawn. He knows me well enough, or at least he used to, before he got so caught up in trying to keep everyone happy that he forgot who I actually am. He knows I don't make empty threats. He knows when I say I have something, I have something. Mom. His voice cracks on the word. What are you talking about? I don't answer immediately. Instead, I walk past Brianna. She actually steps back, which gives me a cold satisfaction I'm not proud of but won't deny, and head into the living room. The space is nice, I'll give them that. Theo has good taste, inherited from his father and refined by all those years of architecture school. Warm grays and navy blues, clean lines, that expensive sectional they bought 6 months after Noah was born and couldn't really afford, but Brianna insisted on because some influencer she follows had the same one. The television is mounted on the wall, 65 inches, another purchase I privately questioned but never commented on. I pick up the remote from the coffee table and turn it on. Sabrine, what the hell are you doing? Brianna has followed me, Theo right behind her. They're both staring at me like I've lost my mind. And maybe I have. Maybe the smart thing would be to just pack my bags, go back to my apartment on the Upper East Side that's been ready for 2 months. Yes, 2 months, another thing I've been lying about, and let them destroy their marriage on their own. But I can't. Because Noah is upstairs napping right now, my 2-year-old grandson with his father's gray eyes and his grandmother's smile, and he deserves better than parents who are drowning in secrets and lies and resentment. And Theo deserves better than a marriage built on hiding and pretending. And honestly, I deserve better than being treated like hired help in my own son's home. Sit down, I tell them both. Both of you. Sit. Theo sits immediately, muscle memory from childhood when I used that tone. Brianna hesitates, her jaw set in that stubborn way I've come to know so well, but eventually she perches on the edge of the sectional, as far from Theo as possible while still being on the same piece of furniture. I open my phone. I've had these screenshots organized in a folder for 3 weeks now, ever since I found Brianna's phone unlocked on the dining room table while she was upstairs giving Noah a bath. I didn't plan to look. I was just moving it so I could wipe down the table after dinner. And there it was, her text conversation with Chelsea, open and damning. I'm going to show you something, I say, and I connect my phone to their TV using the Chromecast that Theo installed months ago so Brianna could display her Instagram content on the big screen when she's planning posts. The irony isn't lost on me. And I want you both to understand that I didn't go looking for any of this. I found it by accident, and then I documented it because I'm a businesswoman and I document things. It's what I do. You went through my phone? Brianna's voice is shrill now, panicked. She knows. She already knows what's coming. Your phone was unlocked, on the table, with messages visible. I'm already pulling up the first screenshot. I took pictures of what I saw because I knew someday I might need evidence. I didn't know for what. I just knew that what I was seeing wasn't right, and mothers protect their children, Brianna, even when their children are 32 years old and should be able to protect themselves. The first image fills the screen. It's Brianna's text conversation with Chelsea from 4 months ago, right after I'd made Sunday dinner and Theo had complimented my beef bourguignon. Chelsea: OMG, is she still there? Brianna: Yes, and I'm losing my mind, Chels. She acts so nice to his face, but I can see how she judges me. Every single thing. Chelsea: What are you gonna do? Brianna: Honestly, I'm making her life hell until she leaves. I'm done pretending to like this woman. She thinks she's better than me because she has money? I'll show her who runs this house. I watch Brianna's face as she reads her own words, projected in high definition on her television screen. All the color has drained from it now. Her mouth is open, but no sound is coming out. Keep reading, I say quietly. There's more. I swipe to the next screenshot. This one is from 6 weeks ago. Brianna: I swear to God, Chels, if she rearranges my kitchen cabinets one more time, I'm going to lose it. Who does she think she is? Chelsea: Tell Theo to make her leave. Brianna: He won't. He's got this weird guilt thing about his dad dying and not being there. But I'm working on it. I'm making sure she knows this isn't her house. She's just a guest. And guests who overstay their welcome get treated like what they are. Chelsea: You're savage, LOL. I love it. Brianna, she called me dear yesterday, and I wanted to throw something at her face, so condescending. I called you dear because that's what I call people, I say, and for the first time I can hear emotion creeping into my voice. I called my staff dear. I call waiters dear. It's not condescending, Brianna. It's just how I talk. Mom. Theo's voice sounds strangled. He's staring at the screen like it's showing him a car accident. Mom, maybe we should what, sweetheart? Stop? Not show the whole truth? I swipe to another screenshot. Because there's more. There's a lot more. This one is from 3 weeks ago, the night after Brianna threw away a casserole I'd made because she said it looked weird. I knew she was lying. I saw her dump it in the trash when she thought I wasn't looking. Brianna. Update. I threw out her food and told her it went bad. The look on her face was priceless. Chelsea. Bree, you're terrible. Brianna. She had it coming, acting like she's doing me favors by cooking in my kitchen. Like I need her help. Like I'm some incompetent little girl who can't take care of her own family. Chelsea. Is Theo still clueless? Brianna. Completely. He thinks we're all getting along great. Men are so stupid sometimes. Theo stands up abruptly. His face is red now, transitioning from shock to anger. Brianna, what the hell? You told me that casserole went bad. You said Mom understood. Brianna starts, but I cut her off. I'm not done. My finger is already swiping to the next one. And this is where it gets worse. This is where my heart truly broke. Not for me, but for my son. The screenshot shows a different conversation. This one is with someone named Marcus PT in Brianna's phone. I know from context clues in other messages that he's her personal trainer at the gym she joined 3 months ago, the one that costs $200 a month they can't really afford. Marcus, you looked amazing today. That new workout gear? Brianna, you noticed? Marcus, how could I not? You're the best part of my Tuesday-Thursday sessions. Brianna, stop, you're making me blush. Marcus, I'm serious. Your husband's a lucky guy. Brianna, is he though? Sometimes I wonder what life would be like with someone who actually appreciated me. Someone who didn't spend all his time worrying about his mother. I hear Theo make a sound that's somewhere between a gasp and a groan. Brianna has gone completely white now, and she's shaking her head back and forth like if she denies it hard enough, it'll disappear from the screen. It's not what it looks like, she whispers, but there's no conviction in her voice. No? I swipe to the next one. The conversation continues, and it gets worse. Marcus, does he know how lucky he is? Brianna, he takes me for granted, always has. I was young and pregnant, and he married me because it was the right thing to do. Not because he was crazy in love with me. Marcus, his loss could be someone else's gain. Brianna, maybe. If things don't change, I might have to consider my options. Jesus Christ, Brianna. Theo's voice is shaking now, and when I glance at him, I see tears in his eyes. My strong, steady son, who never cries, who held it together at his father's funeral while I fell apart, is crying. Have you? No! Brianna jumps up from the couch. No, Theo, I swear I didn't. It was just texting, just stupid flirting. I never actually did anything. Just flirting? He laughs, but it's bitter, broken. You're telling another man that you're considering your options, that you might leave me. You're emotionally cheating on me and calling it just flirting? Says the man who sends $800 a month to some mystery account, Brianna shouts back, and I can see her shifting into defense mode. Attack when cornered. I recognize the tactic. I've used it myself in business negotiations. You think I don't know about that, Theo? You think I'm stupid? Where's that money going? To your mother? To some other woman? Theo's face changes, goes from hurt to guilty in an instant. That's different. Is it? Brianna's voice is rising again. You've been lying to me for 8 months about where $800 of our money goes every single month, and I'm the bad guy for having a conversation with my trainer? It goes into an investment account for Noah, Theo explodes. It's for our son's college fund, Brianna. I didn't tell you, because every time I try to talk about saving money or planning for the future, you shut down or we end up fighting about your spending. The room goes silent. You could hear a pin drop. Both of them are breathing hard, staring at each other like they're seeing a stranger. And I'm standing here with my phone, feeling like I've just detonated a bomb that's been ticking in this house for years. There's more, I say quietly, because there is. And before you two tear each other apart, I think you both need to see it. Because this isn't just about secret text messages or hidden bank accounts. This is about the fact that this family is drowning in secrets, and I'm tired of being the only one who seems to see it. I swipe to another screenshot, and this one makes my heart hurt in a different way. It's from Brianna's conversation with Chelsea from 2 weeks ago. The day after I offered to watch Noah so Brianna could have a spa day, and she exploded at me, accusing me of trying to steal her son's affection. Brianna: I don't know what to do anymore. I'm $18,000 in debt and Theo doesn't know. My influencer income has completely dried up. I lost the 3 big sponsorship deals I had. I'm barely making $300 a month now, and I'm drowning. Chelsea: Oh my God, Bri, you have to tell him. Brianna: I can't. Do you know what his mother would say? She'd look at me with those cold eyes, and I'd see exactly what she thinks of me. That I'm a failure, that I'm not good enough for her son, that I'm just some knocked-up girl who trapped him into marriage. Chelsea: She's never said that though, right? Brianna: She doesn't have to. I can see it. And if Theo finds out about the debt, he'll see it too. He'll finally realize he made a mistake marrying me. I turn off the TV. The silence in the room is suffocating. Brianna has collapsed back onto the couch, her face in her hands, and she's crying. Really crying, not the angry tears from earlier, but deep, wrenching sobs that shake her whole body. Theo is still standing, but he's swaying slightly like the ground has shifted under him. And I'm exhausted, bone-deep exhausted, because I've been carrying the weight of knowing all of this for weeks, and now it's finally out, and I don't know if I've saved my family or destroyed it. $18,000, Theo says finally, and his voice sounds hollow. You're $18,000 in debt and you didn't tell me. I was ashamed, Brianna chokes out through her tears. I was so ashamed, Theo. You think I wanted to fail? You think I wanted to prove your mother right about me? I start, but she cuts me off. Yes, you did. She looks up at me, and her face is blotchy and red and miserable. Maybe not out loud. Maybe you never said the words, but I could feel it, Sabrine. From the day Theo brought me home pregnant at 24, I could feel you judging me. Could see you thinking that your perfect son deserved someone better. Someone educated and successful and elegant like you. That's not true, I say. But even as the words come out, I wonder if they are true. Was I judging her? Did I think Theo deserved someone different? Or was I just protecting my son the only way I knew how? By watching, by documenting, by preparing for the worst. You've been living here for 6 months, Theo says, and now he's looking at me instead of Brianna. Mom, your apartment has been ready for 2 months. The contractor called me himself to confirm. Why are you still here? And here it is. The question I've been dreading. The truth I've been avoiding. Because I was testing you, I admit, and the words taste like ash in my mouth. Both of you. I was testing to see if my son had married someone worthy of him. I was testing to see if this marriage was real or if I needed to protect you. And I was testing myself to see if I could let go and trust that you'd be okay without me. You were testing us? Theo's voice cracks. Like we're some kind of experiment? Mom, I'm your son, not a business deal. I know that. And now I'm the one whose voice is rising, whose composure is cracking. Don't you think I know that? But your father died, Theo. He died and left me alone. and you're all I have left. You're my only child, my only family, and I couldn't just walk away and hope for the best. I had to know. I had to be sure. The three of us stand there in that living room, and I realize that we're all broken in our own ways, all scared, all holding secrets because we're too proud or too ashamed or too afraid to be vulnerable with the people who should matter most. And I think about Richard, my husband of 33 years, who would know exactly what to say right now, who would wrap his arm around Theo's shoulder and pull me close and somehow make everyone feel safe and heard and loved. But Richard is dead, and I'm here. And I've just blown up my son's marriage and possibly destroyed any relationship I might have had with my daughter-in-law, all because I couldn't figure out how to let go and trust. I'm sorry, I whisper, and I'm shocked to feel tears on my own cheeks. I haven't cried in front of anyone since Richard's funeral. I'm so sorry to both of you. I didn't want it to be like this. But it is like this. And now we all have to figure out what comes next. 6 months ago, I was sitting in my apartment on East 73rd Street, staring at my phone and trying to convince myself that saying yes to Theo's request was a terrible idea. "Mom, please," he'd said during our weekly Sunday call. "It's just for a few weeks while they finish the renovations. You know how small this house feels with all three of us, and the contractor says the dust and noise are going to be unbearable. Brianna's already stressed with Noah, and I just thought, maybe you could come stay, keep her company, help out a little?" I should have said no. Every instinct I'd honed over 40 years of business and marriage told me to say no. You don't insert yourself into a young couple's life, especially when that couple already has tension you can feel through the phone lines. But I was lonely. God, I was so lonely. Richard had been dead for 3 years, and I still reached for him every morning when I woke up. Still made too much coffee. Still caught myself picking up the phone to call him about something ridiculous I'd seen on the news or some memory that had surfaced unexpectedly. The boutiques were gone, sold to a corporate chain that immediately stripped them of everything that made them special. And Theo was busy with his architecture firm and his family, as he should be. So I said yes. I told myself it was temporary, that I was helping, that it would be good for all of us. I was wrong. The first week was fine. Pleasant, even. Brianna greeted me at the door with Noah on her hip and a smile that looked genuine enough. The guest room was nice. Theo had clearly put thought into making it comfortable, with fresh flowers on the dresser and new towels in the attached bathroom. We had dinners together where Brianna asked polite questions about my boutiques and I asked equally polite questions about her influencer work, both of us performing for Theo's benefit. But by the second week, I started to notice things. Little things at first. The way Brianna's smile would freeze when Noah reached for me instead of her. How she'd rearrange the kitchen after I cooked, moving things back to where they were before with just a bit too much emphasis. The comments that seemed friendly on the surface but had an edge underneath. "Oh, that's an interesting way to fold towels," or "I guess your generation does things differently." I tried to ignore it, told myself I was being oversensitive, that losing Richard had made me paranoid and needy. Brianna was young, just 29, and here was her 57-year-old mother-in-law camping out in her house. Of course there would be friction. But then I started paying closer attention, the way I used to watch new employees at the boutique to see if they'd work out. And what I saw worried me. Theo was exhausted. Not just tired from work. I knew what that looked like. This was deeper. He'd come home from the office at 7 and his shoulders would be up around his ears before he even got through the door. He'd kiss Brianna hello, and I'd see him brace himself, like he was preparing for impact. At dinner, he'd try to keep conversation flowing, asking me about my day and Brianna about hers, working so hard to keep everyone happy that he barely ate his own food. And Brianna was angry, all the time. It radiated off her like heat from pavement in summer. She'd snap at Theo over tiny things. He put the milk back in the wrong spot in the fridge. He forgot to text her that he'd be 10 minutes late. He didn't notice she'd changed her hair. Then she'd catch herself and apologize, usually blaming stress or hormones or how hard it was managing a toddler and trying to build her social media presence. I wanted to say something. Every maternal instinct I had was screaming that my son was struggling, that this marriage was in trouble. But what could I say? Your wife seems unhappy would sound like criticism. You look stressed would just add to his burden. So I did what I do best. I watched and I documented, and I waited for the right moment to act. The moment came 3 weeks into my stay. I'd offered to watch Noah for the afternoon so Brianna could film content for her Instagram. She'd been complaining for days about being behind on posts, about losing engagement, about sponsors dropping her. I thought I was helping. "No," she said flatly. "I'll take him with me. He's good for content anyway. Mommy and me shots perform well." "Brianna, he's tired," I pointed out gently. Noah had been up since 5:30 that morning, and he was already rubbing his eyes. "Let me put him down for a nap. You'll get better content without a cranky toddler." Something flashed across her face. Rage, hurt, I couldn't tell. "I know when my own son is tired, Sabrine. Thank you." The way she said my name, like it tasted bad in her mouth. That's when I knew this wasn't just normal daughter-in-law tension. This was something deeper. I started noticing more after that. How Brianna would wait until I was in the room to correct Noah about something, her voice just a bit louder than necessary. "No, honey, we don't ask Grandma for cookies before dinner. Mommy makes the rules, remember?" How she'd mention casually at dinner that she and Theo had been so happy before his dad died and everything got complicated. How she'd schedule activities with Noah right when she knew I usually played with him, then make a point of telling him, "Grandma can't come. This is just Mommy and Noah time." I told myself I was imagining it, that I was being paranoid, that grief had made me oversensitive and desperate for connection with my only family. But then I found the phone. It was a Tuesday afternoon, 4 months into my stay. Brianna had run upstairs to give Noah a bath after he'd dumped an entire sippy cup of juice on himself. Her phone was on the dining room table, unlocked and glowing. I was wiping down the table after lunch. Yes, I'd started doing more cleaning than I probably should have, but I couldn't help myself. The house was always slightly messy, and it made me anxious. I picked up the phone to move it, and that's when I saw the text conversation with Chelsea, Brianna's best friend from college. It was right there, open, and the last message was from an hour ago. I knew I shouldn't read it. I knew it was a violation of privacy. But something made me stop, made me look, made me start scrolling up through the conversation. And what I found made my blood run cold. Months of messages, months of Brianna complaining about me, mocking me, strategizing about how to make me uncomfortable enough to leave. She's so fake nice it makes me sick. I swear if she tells me one more story about her precious boutiques, I'm going to scream. Theo acts like she's a saint, but I see through her. She judges everything I do. But it was more than just venting. There were messages about deliberately making my life difficult, about throwing away food I'd cooked and claiming it went bad, about rearranging things I'd organized, about making sure I felt like an unwelcome guest in what was supposed to be, temporarily, my home too. I stood there in that dining room, holding my daughter-in-law's phone, and I felt something inside me shift. Not anger, not yet. More like resolve, like clarity. I heard the bathroom upstairs, water running, Noah's high-pitched giggle. I had maybe 2 minutes before Brianna came back down, so I did something I never thought I'd do. I started taking screenshots, fast, efficient, my fingers flying over the screen the way they used to when I'd inventory boutique stock on my tablet. Click, scroll, click, scroll. I sent them all to myself, then deleted the messages from her sent folder so she wouldn't know. My hands were shaking when I put the phone back down exactly where I'd found it. I finished wiping the table, put the cloth in the laundry, and went to my room. Then I sat on the edge of the bed and looked through what I'd just stolen. There were so many messages, months and months of them. And the more I read, the more complicated the picture became. Yes, Brianna resented me. Yes, she was making my life difficult on purpose, but she was also drowning. There were messages about money stress, about failing sponsorship deals, about feeling inadequate and overwhelmed. Messages where she admitted to Chelsea that she didn't know how to be a good mother, that she felt like she was failing at everything, that she was terrified Theo would realize he'd made a mistake marrying her. And there were the messages about Marcus, her personal trainer. Nothing explicitly physical, no sexting, no plans to meet up outside the gym. But there was emotional intimacy there that had no business existing between a married woman and another man. Flirting, confiding, admitting things to him that she should have been saying to her husband. I should have confronted her then, or told Theo, but I didn't. Instead, I kept watching, kept documenting. Every few weeks when Brianna left her phone unattended and unlocked, which happened more often than it should have, I'd quickly scroll through and capture anything relevant. I told myself I was protecting my son, gathering evidence in case things got worse, making sure I had the full picture before I acted. But the truth? I was scared. Scared that if I spoke up, Theo would choose Brianna over me. Scared that I'd lose my son the way I'd lost my husband. Scared that I was wrong, that I was the problem, that my grief had turned me into some paranoid, controlling mother who couldn't let go. So I stayed, week after week, then month after month. My apartment renovation finished. I knew because the contractor called Theo to confirm completion, and I overheard the conversation. Theo asked me about it that night at dinner, and I lied. Said there were still some issues with the tile work in the bathroom, that it would be another few weeks. He believed me because he wanted to believe me, because having me there meant there was someone to help with Noah, someone to cook dinner on nights when he worked late, someone to be a buffer between him and Brianna when the tension got too thick. I became complicit in the dysfunction, part of the problem instead of the solution. And then came today, the dish towel, the screaming, the moment when I finally broke and decided that enough was enough, that someone in this house needed to start telling the truth, even if it burned everything down. Looking back now, standing in this living room with my son crying and my daughter-in-law sobbing and the evidence of all our secrets displayed on that television screen, I wonder if there was a better way. If I could have handled this with more grace, more wisdom, more of the elegance I've always prided myself on. But I don't know. I honestly don't know. All I know is that we can't keep living like this, drowning in secrets, performing happiness, slowly destroying each other with silence and resentment and fear. Something has to change. And apparently, I'm the one who's going to force that change, even if it costs me everything. The silence after my confession feels like it lasts forever, but it's probably only 30 seconds. 30 seconds of the three of us standing in this living room, the weight of our collective failures hanging in the air like smoke. Theo breaks first. He walks to the window, his back to both of us, and I can see his shoulders shaking. He's crying silently, the way he used to as a little boy when he didn't want anyone to know he was upset. My heart breaks watching him, this man I raised to be strong and kind and honest, realizing that all three of us have been anything but honest. I need to understand something, he says finally, his voice rough. He doesn't turn around. Mom, you've been spying on my wife for months, documenting her private conversations, lying about your apartment, all while living in our home, eating our food, playing with our son. How is that protecting me? How is any of that okay? The accusation stings because he's right. It's not okay, I admit. You're right. It's a violation of privacy and trust, and I justified it by telling myself I was being a good mother, but really, I pause, forcing myself to be completely honest. Really, I was being a coward. I saw problems, and instead of addressing them directly, I collected evidence like I was building a legal case. That's not love. That's control. Brianna is still on the couch, but she's stopped crying. She's watching me with an expression I can't quite read. Not anger anymore. something more complicated. Why didn't you just talk to me? Theo turns around now, and his face is blotchy and red. If you saw problems, why didn't you come to me like an adult and say, Theo, I'm concerned about your marriage. Why the spy games? Because I was afraid, I say simply. Afraid you'd choose her over me. Afraid I'd lose you the way I lost your father. And that's not fair to you. I know it's not. You're not responsible for managing my grief or my loneliness. But fear makes us do terrible things, and I did terrible things. We all did terrible things, Brianna says quietly, and both Theo and I look at her. She's pulled her knees up to her chest, making herself small on that oversized sectional. I've been awful to you, Sabrine, deliberately awful. And I told myself you deserved it because you were judging me. But the truth is, her voice cracks. The truth is, I was terrified of you, of what you represent. This elegant, successful, put-together woman who built a business empire and has millions in the bank and never seems to struggle with anything. And here I am, 29 years old, drowning in debt I haven't told my husband about, failing at the one career I thought I could make work, feeling like the worst mother in the world because my toddler likes his grandma more than me. Noah doesn't like me more than you, I say gently. He's two. He likes whoever gives him cookies and plays trucks with him. That's not a referendum on your mothering. But you're so good with him, Brianna whispers. You're patient and calm, and you always know what to do. And I'm constantly anxious and yelling and feeling like I'm failing. Do you know what it's like to watch your mother-in-law be better at your job than you are? It's not a job, Bri, Theo says, and there's frustration in his voice. Being a mother isn't a job you can fail at. And Noah adores you. He asks for you constantly. When you're not around, you're all he talks about. Then why didn't you tell me about the debt? The question comes out sharper than I intend, but it needs to be asked. $18,000, Brianna. That's not a small amount. How did it get that bad? She's quiet for a long moment, picking at the hem of her expensive athleisure pants. It started after Noah was born, she finally says. I had to take time off from posting content, and my engagement dropped. Brands stopped reaching out. I'd built this whole identity around being this lifestyle influencer, and suddenly I was just nobody. A mom at home with a baby, and even that I wasn't doing right because I had postpartum depression that I didn't tell anyone about. Theo makes a strangled sound. You had postpartum depression and didn't tell me? I couldn't, Brianna says, and now tears are flowing again. Your mom had just lost Richard. You were grieving and trying to take care of her and keeping your job, and I was supposed to be the strong one, the one who had it together. So I smiled and pretended everything was fine and spent money I didn't have on things that made me feel better for 5 minutes. New workout clothes because maybe if I got my body back, brands would want me again. A new phone because mine was old, and I convinced myself that's why my content wasn't performing. That sectional, she gestures at the couch she's sitting on, because some influencer I follow said investing in your space is investing in your mental health, and I was so desperate to feel better. But why credit cards? I ask, genuinely trying to understand. Why not talk to Theo about needing money? Because he was already sending $800 a month somewhere. Brianna's voice rises again. I knew something was going on. I saw the bank statements. Money disappearing every month. And when I asked about it, he'd change the subject or say it was handled. What was I supposed to think? That he was saving for our son's future? Or that he was hiding something from me the way I was hiding things from him? Theo runs his hands through his hair, a gesture so reminiscent of his father that it makes my chest ache. I should have told you about the college fund, I know that. But every time I tried to talk about money or saving or our future, you'd shut down. You'd get defensive and say I was criticizing your spending, and we'd end up fighting. So I stopped trying. I set up the automatic transfer and didn't mention it because it was easier than fighting. That's the problem though, isn't it? I find myself saying. All three of us chose easier over honest. I chose documenting over confronting. You chose hiding over communicating. Brianna chose spending over admitting she was struggling. And now we're here, in this living room, with everything exploded around us. So what do we do now? Brianna asks, and she sounds so young, so lost. How do we fix this? I don't know if we can, Theo says, and the defeat in his voice scares me more than anything else that's happened today. I don't know if you can come back from the kind of betrayal we've all committed. Mom violated your privacy. You were emotionally cheating with your trainer. I was lying about money. We've all broken trust in fundamental ways. People rebuild from worse, I say, surprising myself. I've seen marriages survive worse. I've survived worse. Have you? Theo challenges. Because from where I'm standing, you haven't survived Dad's death at all. You sold the businesses you loved. You're living in limbo in our guest room instead of going home to your own apartment. You're spying on your family instead of building a life of your own. That's not surviving, Mom. That's hiding. The words hit like a physical blow. I open my mouth to defend myself and then close it again because he's right. God help me. He's right. You're correct, I finally manage. I'm not okay. I haven't been okay since your father died, and I don't know how to be okay without him. The boutiques were ours. We built them together. Living in our apartment alone feels like living in a mausoleum. And yes, I came here because I was lonely and scared and desperate for family, even if it meant inserting myself where I didn't belong. But you do belong, Brianna says suddenly, and both Theo and I look at her in surprise. That's what I've been fighting against this whole time. You do belong in Theo's life, in Noah's life. You're his grandmother, his mother. Of course you belong. I was so scared there wasn't room for both of us, that if you were here, being perfect and helpful in everything I'm not, then Theo would see what a mistake he made choosing me. He didn't make a mistake, I say firmly. Brianna, look at me. She does, her eyes red and puffy. My son loves you. I've watched him with you over these months, and whatever problems you have, lack of love isn't one of them. He lights up when you laugh. He checks his phone constantly hoping for texts from you. When you're happy, he's happy. That's not a mistake. That's real. Then why does it feel like we're falling apart? She whispers. Because love isn't enough, Theo says flatly. That's what I'm realizing. We love each other, but we don't trust each other. We don't communicate. We don't support each other the way partners should. And I don't know how to fix that. The three of us sit with that truth for a moment. Upstairs, I hear Noah starting to fuss. He's waking from his nap. Brianna automatically starts to get up, then hesitates, like she's not sure if she's allowed to leave this conversation. Go to him, I tell her gently. He needs you. She nods and heads upstairs, leaving Theo and me alone. He collapses onto the couch, his head in his hands. I'm so tired, Mom, he says, and he sounds utterly exhausted. I'm tired of trying to hold everything together. Tired of being the mediator between you and Bree. Tired of pretending at work that everything's fine at home. Tired of waking up every morning wondering if today's the day everything finally breaks. I sit down next to him, close, but not touching. I'm sorry, I say. I'm so sorry I added to your burden instead of lightening it. That's not what mothers are supposed to do. What are mothers supposed to do? He asks, looking at me. When their adult children are struggling? When do you stop trying to fix things and let us figure it out ourselves? I don't know, I admit. Your grandmother, my mother, she died when you were 10. I never got to see what that relationship looked like between adult children and aging parents. Your father and I just made it up as we went along, and clearly, I'm making mistakes. Dad would know what to do, Theo says, and his voice breaks on the words. He always knew what to do. Your father would probably tell you what he told me 1,000 times during our marriage. Sabrine, stop trying to control everything and just trust the process. He was infuriating that way, so calm, so trusting that things would work out. And they did work out, until they didn't. Until he had a heart attack at 63 and left us. There's bitterness in Theo's voice I've never heard before. I was on a business trip when he died, Mom. In Chicago, closing a deal on a project that doesn't even exist anymore because the client went bankrupt 6 months later. And he was dying, and I wasn't there. You were alone in that hospital, and I wasn't there. Oh, sweetheart. Now I do touch him, putting my hand on his shoulder. You couldn't have known. None of us could have known. But that's why I send the money every month, isn't it? He looks at me, and I see so much pain in his eyes. The college fund for Noah? That's real, that's true. But part of why I set it up, why I make it a priority even when money's tight, is because I wasn't there when it mattered. I wasn't there for Dad, and I'm terrified of failing again, of not being prepared, of letting my family down when they need me most. You didn't fail your father, I say firmly, and you're not failing now. You're a wonderful father to Noah, a good husband, even when things are difficult, a successful architect. You're doing everything right, Theo. Then why does everything feel so wrong? I don't have an answer for that. We sit in silence until Brianna comes back downstairs with Noah on her hip. He's sleepy-eyed and clutching his stuffed elephant, his hair sticking up in every direction. "Gamma," he says when he sees me, reaching out with chubby arms. I look at Brianna, asking permission with my eyes. She nods, and I take my grandson, breathing in that particular smell of child, baby shampoo and sleep and innocence. He cuddles into my shoulder, his thumb finding his mouth. "This is why it matters," Brianna says quietly, watching us. "This right here. Whatever problems we have, whatever mistakes we've made, we have to figure them out for him. He deserves grandparents who talk to each other, parents who trust each other, a family that's honest, even when honesty is hard." "I need to know about Marcus," Theo says abruptly, and Brianna flinches. "I need to know the truth, all of it. Did you sleep with him?" "No," Brianna says immediately. "I swear to God, Theo, no. It was texting, flirting, emotional stuff. He made me feel seen and appreciated in a way I wasn't feeling at home, and that was wrong. I know it was wrong. But I never physically cheated on you." "Did you want to?" The question hangs in the air. I consider taking Noah and leaving them to have this conversation privately, but something makes me stay. Maybe they need a witness. Maybe I need to hear this too. "I don't know," Brianna finally admits. "There were moments when I fantasized about it, about being someone different, someone who didn't have responsibilities and debt, and a mother-in-law who made her feel inadequate. But fantasizing and doing are different things. I never made plans to meet him outside the gym, never even suggested it." "But you told him you were considering your options," Theo presses. "What did that mean?" "It meant I was miserable and looking for an escape route, even if I didn't actually want to take it," Brianna says, and there's a note of defiance creeping back into her voice. "It meant I was drowning, and nobody seemed to notice or care. You were always at work or worried about your mom. Your mom was always watching me with those evaluating eyes. Noah was wonderful, but exhausting. And I was failing at everything: motherhood, my career, being a wife, managing money. So yes, I entertained thoughts of what it would be like to just walk away from all of it." "Why didn't you tell me you felt that way?" Theo's voice cracks. "Why didn't you come to me and say, 'I'm struggling, I need help'?" "Because you were already drowning too," Brianna shouts, and Noah startles in my arms. She immediately lowers her voice. "I'm sorry, baby boy. Mommy's sorry." She takes a breath. "Theo, you were working yourself to death trying to provide for us while also emotionally supporting your mom, while also being present for Noah. When exactly was I supposed to add my problems to your plate?" "That's what marriage is," Theo says. "We're supposed to share the plate. That's the whole point." "Is it though?" Brianna challenges. "Because from what I've seen, marriage seems to be about performing strength even when you're breaking, about hiding weaknesses so your partner doesn't lose respect for you, about pretending everything's fine until it all explodes. That's what your parents modeled. That's what my parents modeled before they divorced when I was 12. That's what we're doing now. I open my mouth to defend my marriage to Richard, then close it again. Because is she wrong? Richard and I had a good marriage, a great marriage even. But we also had our secrets. Times when he struggled with business decisions and didn't tell me until after he'd resolved them. Times when I was overwhelmed or scared and put on a brave face instead of admitting vulnerability. We loved each other deeply, but we also performed for each other, especially in those later years when his health was declining and neither of us wanted to acknowledge it. My parents weren't perfect, I say slowly, still holding Noah, who's dozed off again against my shoulder. You're right about that, Brianna. We had our own issues with communication and vulnerability, and maybe... I look at Theo. Maybe I did model some unhealthy patterns that you've internalized. The importance of appearing strong, of handling things alone, of not burdening others with your problems. So, what do we do differently? Theo asks, and he sounds genuinely desperate to know. How do we break these patterns? How do we build something better? I think it starts with this, I say. With sitting in this uncomfortable living room having painful conversations. With admitting that we've all screwed up instead of defending our positions. With choosing honesty over peace. I hate honesty, Brianna says, but there's a hint of humor in her voice for the first time all day. Honesty is uncomfortable and scary, and makes me feel vulnerable. Welcome to being human, I reply. We're all uncomfortable and scared and vulnerable. We just usually hide it better. I need to say something, Theo says suddenly. Something I should have said months ago. He looks at Brianna. I knew you were unhappy. I knew things weren't okay between us. And instead of addressing it, I threw myself into work and used my mom's presence as a buffer. I'm not innocent in this, Bri. I let our marriage deteriorate because I didn't want to face how broken things had become. And I need to say something too, Brianna responds. I was threatened by your mom not because of anything she actually did, but because I was already feeling insecure and inadequate. I projected all my fears onto her and made her the villain instead of dealing with my own issues. They're both looking at me now, and I realize it's my turn. I need to say that I've been using you both, I admit. Using your family as a replacement for the life I lost when Richard died. Using my role as helper and grandmother to avoid building a new life of my own. And that's not fair to any of us, especially Noah. I look down at my sleeping grandson. He deserves a grandmother who's whole and healthy, not one who's hiding from her own grief in his parents' guest room. The admission seems to release something in the room. We all take deep breaths, like we've been holding them for hours. So now what? Brianna asks again. We've confessed our sins. We've admitted our failures. What comes next? Now we decide if we want to do the work, I say. Real work. Therapy, probably. Definitely some boundaries and changes. The question is, do we want to? Or have we damaged things beyond repair? Theo and Brianna look at each other, and something passes between them. Some wordless communication that only couples who've been together for years can manage. I want to try, Brianna says softly. If you do, if your mom does. I want to try, Theo agrees, but things have to change. All three of us have to change. They both look at me, and I feel the weight of the decision. I could walk away, go back to my apartment, leave them to rebuild their marriage without my interference. It would probably be easier, cleaner. But I think about Noah, sleeping peacefully in my arms. About Theo, my only child, trying so hard to be everything to everyone. About Brianna, drowning and too proud to ask for a life raft. I want to try too, I say. But you're right, things have to be different, starting with me moving back to my apartment. I see relief flash across Brianna's face before she can hide it, and it stings. But it's also clarifying. And I think we all need professional help, I continue. Individual therapy, at minimum. Couples therapy for you two. Maybe family therapy for all of us eventually. That's expensive, Brianna says automatically, then winces. Sorry. Old habits. I'll pay for it, I offer, then catch myself. If that's okay. If that doesn't feel like control or judgment. I have the resources, and this is important. Theo and Brianna exchange another look. Okay, Theo says. Thank you. That's generous. It's not generosity, I correct. It's investment in my family, in making sure Noah grows up in a healthier environment than any of us are currently providing. We sit with that for a moment, the three of us, and something feels different. Not fixed. We're nowhere close to fixed. But maybe, possibly, like we found the bottom and can start building our way back up. It's Brianna who breaks the moment of fragile peace we've found. She stands up abruptly, wrapping her arms around herself like she's cold, even though the house is warm. There's something else, she says, her voice tight. Something I haven't told either of you. And if we're doing honesty, if we're really doing this, then I need to say it now before I lose my nerve. Theo tenses beside me. I can feel it radiating off him, the bracing for another blow, another betrayal. We've already absorbed so much today that I'm not sure any of us can take more, but Brianna's face tells me this is important. What is it? Theo asks, and I can hear him trying to keep his voice neutral, trying not to sound accusatory or defensive. Brianna paces to the window, looks out at their quiet suburban street where neighbors are probably living normal Tuesday afternoons, unaware that the Westmont family is imploding 3 houses down. When she turns back, there are tears streaming down her face again. The debt isn't just from shopping and trying to keep up appearances, she says. That's part of it, yes, but the bulk of it, almost $12,000, is from something else. Brianna, what did you do? Theo's voice has gone very quiet, very careful, the tone he uses when he's terrified of the answer. I tried to start a business, she says in a rush, the words tumbling out like she's afraid if she doesn't say them fast enough, she won't say them at all. 6 months ago, before your mom came to stay, I was so tired of failing as an influencer, so tired of relying on brand deals that kept falling through. I saw this opportunity. This woman I followed was starting a mentorship program for people who wanted to launch their own digital marketing agencies. She promised we'd make 6 figures in the first year if we followed her system. My stomach drops. I've heard this story before, seen it play out with young women at the boutique who got sucked into multi-level marketing schemes or business coaching programs that promised the moon and delivered nothing but debt. How much did you spend? I ask, already knowing the answer won't be good. The program was $8,000, Brianna says, and Theo makes a choked sound. But that was just the beginning. She said I needed professional branding, logo, website, business cards, another $2,000. Then there were the courses I needed to take to learn the skills, Facebook ads, email marketing, SEO, another $1,000. And then when none of it was working, when I couldn't get a single client, despite following every step of her system, she said I needed to invest in her premium coaching package for another $3,000 to really make it work. $14,000, Theo says, and his voice is hollow. You spent $14,000 on a business that never made you a single cent. I made $200, Brianna says defensively, then deflates. One client, who demanded a refund after 2 weeks because I had no idea what I was doing. So yes, essentially, I spent $14,000 on nothing. On a dream that was stupid from the start. On believing I could be someone other than a failed influencer and overwhelmed mother. I look at her standing there, 29 years old and drowning in shame, and I recognize something I didn't expect to see. I recognize myself at 30, newly arrived in America from France, convinced I could build a fashion empire with no business experience and borrowed money. The main difference between us is that I got lucky. My first boutique succeeded despite my mistakes, not because I knew what I was doing. Who was the mentor? I ask, and Brianna looks surprised by the question. Does it matter? It matters because I want to know if this was a legitimate opportunity that didn't work out, or if you got scammed by someone running a predatory coaching scheme. Brianna rattles off a name I don't recognize, and I pull out my phone, the same phone that holds all those screenshots, all that documentation of failure and secrets. But this time, I use it for something constructive. I search the name, and within 30 seconds, I have my answer. She's been sued, I tell them, showing them the screen, multiple times, for promising results she couldn't deliver, for high-pressure sales tactics, for targeting vulnerable women with unrealistic business promises. Brianna, you didn't fail. You got scammed by someone who does this professionally. That doesn't change the fact that I was stupid enough to fall for it, Brianna says bitterly. That I spent our money we needed for actual bills, and Noah's needs, chasing some fantasy of being a successful businesswoman like you. And there it is, the core of it. The thing that's been festering between us since the day Theo brought her home pregnant and nervous. You don't want to be like me, I say firmly. Trust me, Brianna. You want to be you. A better version of you, maybe. A more confident, more stable version. But not me. My path isn't your path, and that's okay. But your path worked, she says, frustration bleeding through. You built businesses that succeeded. You have millions in the bank. You have respect and elegance, and everyone looks at you and sees someone who has her life together. And I'm a joke. A 29-year-old joke with credit card debt and no career and a 2-year-old I don't know how to parent properly. My path worked because I had Richard, I correct her. I had a husband who believed in me when I didn't believe in myself, who covered our bills when the boutique was struggling in the first 3 years, who talked me down from panic attacks and held me when I cried over bad months and celebrated with me when we finally turned a corner. I didn't do it alone, Brianna. Nobody does. Theo has gone very still beside me. You had panic attacks? He asks quietly. I never knew that. You were a child. I didn't tell you. I turn to look at him. That's what I was talking about earlier, about performing strength. Your father and I protected you from seeing our struggles, and maybe that was wrong. Maybe it gave you an unrealistic picture of what success looks like. It gave me an impossible standard, Theo says, and there's something breaking open in his voice. I've spent my whole life trying to be as solid as Dad was, as capable as you were. And I'm not. I'm anxious all the time. I lie awake at 3 a.m. worrying about mortgage payments and client demands and whether I'm a good enough father. I take medication for anxiety that I told Bree was for allergies because I was ashamed to admit I needed it. Brianna's head snaps up. The little blue pills in your nightstand? Those are anti-anxiety medication? Lexapro, Theo admits. I started taking it a year ago when the panic attacks got too bad to ignore. My doctor prescribed it, and it helps, but I've been too embarrassed to tell anyone, including my wife. We all stand there, and I'm struck by how much we've all been hiding, how much energy we've wasted on maintaining facades instead of asking for help, how much pain we could have avoided if we'd just been honest 6 months ago, a year ago, 5 years ago. I think we've all been so busy trying to appear strong that we forgot being human means being vulnerable, I say. And vulnerability isn't weakness. It's actually the opposite. It takes tremendous courage to say, I'm struggling, or I need help, or I made a terrible mistake. So, what do we do about the debt? Brianna asks, and I can hear the fear in her voice. $18,000 doesn't just disappear because we had an honest conversation. I take a breath, weighing my words carefully. I'm going to pay off your credit cards, I say, and before either of them can protest, I hold up my hand. Not as a gift, as a loan. 0 interest, structured payments you can actually afford, and a written contract so everything is clear and legal. But there's a condition. Of course there is, Brianna mutters, but there's less hostility in it than there would have been an hour ago. The condition is that both of you agree to financial counseling along with the therapy. Someone who can help you build a budget, create healthy money habits, and make sure this doesn't happen again. Because money problems are rarely just about money. They're usually about communication and values and fear. Theo and Brianna look at each other again, that wordless communication passing between them. "Why would you do that?" Brianna asks, and she sounds genuinely confused. "After everything I've done? After how terrible I've been to you?" "Because you're my son's wife," I say simply. "Because you're the mother of my grandson. Because helping you succeed is helping my family succeed. And because—" I pause, making sure I mean what I'm about to say. "Because despite everything, I think you have potential that's been buried under insecurity and bad circumstances. And I'd like to see what you could do if you weren't drowning." Brianna starts crying again, but this time it's different. Softer, more like relief than despair. "Thank you," she whispers. "I don't deserve it, but thank you." "None of us deserve grace," I tell her. "We just hope for it anyway. That's what family is supposed to be." And for the first time since I moved into this house 6 months ago, I see something shift in Brianna's face when she looks at me. Not the hostility or the fear or the resentment. Something that might, eventually, with a lot of work and time, become acceptance. Maybe even, someday, love. The next hour is a blur of practical decisions that feel both mundane and monumental. Theo makes coffee, strong, dark, the way his father used to make it. Brianna pulls out her laptop and starts logging into credit card accounts, her hands shaking as she shows us the full extent of the damage. I take notes on my phone, calculating numbers and timelines, falling back into the business mode that always steadied me when emotions ran too high. But then Theo's phone rings. He glances at the screen, and his face goes pale. "It's my boss," he says, and there's something in his voice that makes both Brianna and I go still. I need to take this. He steps into the kitchen, and we can hear his side of the conversation. Professional at first. "Yes, Martin, right, I understand." But then his voice changes, gets tighter. "That's not— I submitted those revisions last week. There must be some mistake." Brianna and I exchange glances. She's biting her lip, and I can see her anxiety ramping up again. "No, I completely understand your position," Theo continues, and now he sounds hollow, empty. "I appreciate the opportunity. Yes, I'll have my desk cleared by Friday." The silence after he hangs up is deafening. Theo walks back into the living room and sits down heavily on the sectional, his phone still in his hand. He's staring at nothing, his face completely blank. "Theo?" Brianna's voice is small, terrified. "What happened?" "I got fired," he says, and the words sound like they're coming from very far away. "Effective immediately. They're calling it position elimination due to restructuring, but we all know what it really is. I've been distracted for months, missing deadlines, making mistakes. They gave me warnings and I kept saying I'd do better, and I didn't. So they let me go." The room tilts. I feel it physically tilt, like the foundation of this house has suddenly shifted. "Oh my God," Brianna whispers. "Oh my God, Theo, we don't have savings, we have debt. We have a mortgage and a car payment and Noah and—" She's hyperventilating now, her breath coming in short gasps. "We're going to lose everything, the house, everything." "Brianna, breathe," I say sharply, moving toward her. "You need to breathe. In through your nose, out through your mouth. Come on." But she's spiraling, and I can see panic taking over. "This is my fault," she's saying between gasps. "If I hadn't spent all that money, if I hadn't been so stupid, if I'd just been honest—" "Stop it," Theo says, and his voice cuts through her panic. He reaches for her, pulls her close even though she's rigid with fear. "This is not your fault, Bri. This is on me. I've been barely functional at work for months. I knew I was failing. I just didn't know how to fix it while everything here was falling apart too." "How much severance are they giving you?" I ask, forcing myself to stay calm, to be the steady one, even though inside I'm screaming. 2 months, Theo says, plus accumulated vacation time, so maybe 10 weeks total, then nothing. I do the math quickly in my head. 10 weeks isn't enough time to find a new architecture position. Not in this market. Not with the holidays coming. We're looking at potentially months of unemployment. Okay, I hear myself say. Okay, here's what we're going to do. Mom, no, Theo says immediately, and I can see him pulling away emotionally even as he holds his wife. No, we're not taking money from you. We've already taken enough. We'll figure this out ourselves. How? I challenge him. With what savings? What safety net? Theo, I'm not trying to control you or rescue you from your own consequences. But I am trying to prevent you from losing your home while you have a toddler and a marriage that's already on the brink. Let me help. Why should we let you help? Brianna asks, and there's something different in her voice now. Not hostility, genuine curiosity. I'm serious, Sabrine. Why would you do this? You could walk away right now. Go back to your apartment, live your comfortable life, and let us deal with the mess we made. Why don't you? It's a fair question. One I've been asking myself all afternoon. Because walking away is what I did when Richard died, I finally say, the words coming from somewhere deep and painful. I walked away from the boutiques rather than fight to keep them running. I walked away from friends who tried to help because I was too proud to admit I was struggling. I walked away from myself, really, from the woman I'd been for 40 years, because it was easier than facing the grief and the fear and the uncertainty. And you know what? Walking away didn't make anything better. It just made me lonelier and more lost. I look at both of them, my son with his red eyes and defeated posture, my daughter-in-law with her fear and shame and desperate pride. I don't want to walk away anymore, I continue. I want to stay and fight for this family, even when it's messy and complicated and none of us knows what we're doing. Because that's what Richard would have done. He would have rolled up his sleeves and figured it out, and he would have expected me to do the same. But we're adults, Theo says, and his voice cracks. We're supposed to handle our own problems. That's what being grown up means. No, I correct him gently. Being grown up means knowing when to ask for help. It means understanding that needing support isn't failure. It's wisdom. Your father taught me that when I wanted to close the first boutique during that terrible second year. I was ready to give up, to admit defeat, and he said, Sabrine, asking for help isn't weakness, it's strategy. So I asked for help, from a business mentor, from our accountant, from him, and we survived. I don't want charity, Brianna says, but there's less conviction in it now. I don't want to be the pathetic daughter-in-law who can't provide for her own family. It's not charity, I tell her. It's investment. In my grandson's stability. In my son's ability to find a new job without the panic of immediate financial crisis. In giving this marriage the space it needs to heal without the additional stress of poverty. And yes, in myself. In proving that I can be the kind of mother and mother-in-law who shows up when things are hard, not just when they're easy. Theo is crying now, silently, tears streaming down his face. I'm so scared, Mom, he whispers. I'm terrified. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to support my family, or fix my marriage, or be the man Dad was. You don't have to be your father, I say, moving to sit beside him. Noah is still sleeping in my arms. Somehow, miraculously, he's slept through this entire crisis. You just have to be you, flawed, anxious, medication-taking you. That's enough, sweetheart. That's always been enough. What if it's not? He asks. What if I can't find another job? What if we lose the house anyway? What if Brianna decides she'd be better off without me? I'm not going anywhere, Brianna says suddenly, and there's steel in her voice I haven't heard before. She takes Theo's face in her hands, forcing him to look at her. Listen to me. I flirted with Marcus because I was lonely and scared and stupid. But I don't want him. I don't want some fantasy life where everything's easy and I'm someone different. I want this. Us. Even when it's terrifying and broken and we have no idea what we're doing, I want to figure it out together. Why? Theo asks, and he sounds genuinely bewildered. Why would you stay with someone who just lost his job and can't even provide for his family? Because providing isn't the same as loving, Brianna says. And because you show up for Noah every single day, even when you're exhausted. Because you tried to protect me from knowing how stressed you were about money. Because you've been patient with me even when I've been terrible to your mother. Because... Her voice breaks. Because you're a good man, Theo. You're not perfect, neither am I, but you're good. And that matters more than a job or money or any of this other stuff. They're holding each other now, both crying, and I'm sitting beside them holding their sleeping child, and something is shifting. Breaking and rebuilding simultaneously. Here's what I propose, I say, after giving them a moment. I cover your mortgage and essential bills for the next 6 months while Theo looks for work. No interest, no pressure, just a safety net. Brianna, I pay off your credit cards as we discussed, as a loan with reasonable payments starting when you're both back on your feet. And we all 3 of us, commit to therapy, individual and family. No more hiding, no more pretending, no more performing strength we don't feel. That's tens of thousands of dollars, Theo says. Maybe more than 100,000 depending on how long it takes me to find work. Mom, that's not reasonable. I have $2.8 million sitting in investment accounts, I remind him. Money I don't need, that I'm not spending, that I originally planned to leave to you and Noah anyway. Why not use some of it now, when it can actually make a difference? Why wait until I'm dead to help you? Because it changes the dynamic, Theo argues. It makes us dependent on you. It gives you power in our marriage, in our decisions, in our lives. Only if we let it, I counter. Only if we don't set clear boundaries and expectations. That's why I'm saying everything gets documented, contracted, treated like a business arrangement. Not because I don't trust you, but because it protects all of us. It makes sure everyone knows exactly what's expected and prevents resentment from building. I can't believe this is happening, Brianna says, and she sounds dazed. This morning I threw a dish towel at your face and screamed at you to clean my house. Now you're offering to save us from financial ruin. How is that possible? Because this morning we were all pretending, I say. Pretending to have it together. Pretending not to need each other. Pretending that pride matters more than family. Now we're being honest. And honesty, as uncomfortable as it is, creates space for actual help. Noah stirs in my arms, his gray eyes, so like Theo's, so like Richard's, blinking open sleepily. Gamma? He says, his voice small and confused. Why everybody crying? Because sometimes grown-ups cry when they're scared, I tell him, smoothing his hair back. But it's okay. We're going to be okay. Promise? He asks, and the simple faith in that question nearly breaks me. I promise we're going to try, I tell him honestly. And sometimes trying is the best we can do. He seems satisfied with that answer, wiggling down from my lap to climb onto his parents' laps instead. Theo and Brianna both wrap their arms around him, and for a moment they're just a family, young, scared, broken, but together. I need to say something, Theo says after a moment, his voice muffled against Noah's hair. Mom, I'm sorry. For using you as a buffer instead of dealing with my marriage. For letting you stay here when your apartment was ready because it was convenient for me. For not protecting you from Brianna's hostility. For all of it. And I need to apologize too, Brianna adds. For being cruel. For projecting my insecurities onto you. For making you feel unwelcome in your son's home. For treating you like the enemy instead of family. I'm sorry, Sabrine. I'm really, truly sorry. I accept your apologies, I say. And I'm sorry too. For the spying, for the testing, for trying to control things instead of trusting you both to figure it out. For staying too long and not being honest about why. We sit like that for a while. The 4 of us in this living room, where so much has broken and maybe, possibly, started to heal. The afternoon light is fading outside, turning everything golden and soft. And I think about how much has changed in just a few hours. This morning, I was a woman hiding in her son's guest room, documenting evidence of family dysfunction while refusing to face her own grief. Now I'm a woman who's chosen to stay and fight, to invest not just money, but presence and honesty and vulnerability. It's terrifying, but it also feels more real than anything has felt since Richard died. So we're doing this? Theo asks, looking between Brianna and me. We're actually going to try to fix this disaster of a family? We're going to try, I confirm, with professional help, clear boundaries, and a lot of uncomfortable conversations. But yes, we're going to try. I'm in, Brianna says, though she still sounds scared. I'm terrified, but I'm in. Me too, Theo agrees. Though for the record, this is the worst and best day of my life simultaneously. That's family, I tell him, thinking of Richard, of all the worst and best days we survived together. That's exactly what family is. Noah looks up at all of us with his big gray eyes and says, "Ice cream now?" And despite everything, the job loss, the debt, the betrayals, the fear, all three of us laugh. Because sometimes a 2-year-old asking for ice cream is exactly the perspective shift you need to remember that life continues, that small joys matter, that tomorrow will come whether we're ready or not. Yes, I tell my grandson, ice cream now. Because if you can't eat ice cream when your whole world is falling apart, when can you? We pile into Theo's car, all 4 of us, nobody left behind, and drive to the ice cream shop 3 blocks away. And for 20 minutes, we're just a family eating ice cream on a Tuesday afternoon, and nobody would guess that we're all held together by apologies and promises and hope that might be foolish but feels necessary anyway. It's not fixed. We're nowhere near fixed. But we're together. And right now, that's enough. 3 months later, I'm sitting in my apartment on East 73rd Street, my actual apartment, the one I've been living in again for the past 12 weeks, when my phone rings. It's Theo, and I can hear something different in his voice immediately. "I got an offer," he says, and I can hear the smile. "Mom, I got a job offer." I close my eyes, relief flooding through me so powerfully I have to sit down. "Tell me everything." It's a smaller firm than before, but the work is better. More creative freedom, better projects. The pay is actually 15% more than my old job, and they're offering full benefits starting day 1. I start in 2 weeks. Theo, that's wonderful. I'm crying, which seems to be something I do more easily now. Therapy will do that to you, break down the walls you've spent decades building. I'm so proud of you. I couldn't have done it without the safety net you provided, he says quietly. Without knowing the mortgage was covered, I could take my time and find the right fit instead of jumping at the first offer out of desperation. So thank you, again. You've thanked me enough, I tell him. How's Brianna? She's good, really good actually. Her therapist has been helping her work through a lot of the money anxiety and the comparison issues. And she's started a blog, nothing influencery, just honest writing about struggling with motherhood and debt and marriage. It's getting a surprising amount of attention. Real attention, not the performative kind. I'm glad, I say, and I mean it. Brianna and I have been meeting for coffee every other week, just the 2 of us. It's still sometimes awkward, but we're learning how to talk to each other without all the pretense. Last week, she told me about her childhood, about her mother's criticism, about growing up poor and ashamed of it, about all the wounds that made her react to me the way she did. I told her about my own mother, about immigrating to America alone and terrified, about the imposter syndrome that never fully went away even when the boutiques were successful. We're not friends exactly, but we're something real. Actually, that's why I'm calling, Theo continues. We want to have a family dinner this Friday, here, at our place, to celebrate the new job and to talk about moving forward with the loan repayment plan now that I'm employed again. You don't have to rush that, I start, but he cuts me off. Yes, we do. Mom, you've been incredibly generous, but Brianna and I both need to know we're not just taking from you indefinitely. We need to contribute, To be partners in this family instead of dependents. Does that make sense? It does. More than he knows. Because one thing I've learned in therapy is that helping can become controlling if you're not careful. That sometimes the most loving thing you can do is let people struggle a bit, earn their own victories, build their own strength. Friday works perfectly, I tell him. What can I bring? Just yourself, he says. And maybe that chocolate cake Dad used to love, if you're feeling up to it? My throat tightens. I haven't made Richard's favorite cake since he died. Haven't been able to face it. The recipe card in his handwriting. The memory of him sneaking bites of frosting when he thought I wasn't looking. I'll make the cake, I say. He'd like that. Knowing we're still celebrating together, even though he's not here. I think about him all the time, Theo says softly. Especially through all of this. I keep wondering what he'd say about how everything fell apart and came back together. He'd say we did it messily but honestly, I tell him, and that messy honesty beats perfect pretense every time. Yeah, Theo agrees. Yeah, he would. Friday comes faster than I expect. I spend the morning making the cake, Richard's recipe, chocolate with raspberry filling, the one he requested every birthday. I cry a little while mixing the batter, but it's not the hollow, desperate grief anymore. It's softer, sadder, but also sweeter, like I'm letting him be part of this new chapter, even though he's not physically here. When I arrive at their house, my son's house, not mine, a distinction I've gotten better at maintaining, Noah barrels into my legs with the force of a small hurricane. Gamma! Gamma! I helped Daddy make dinner. Did you? I scoop him up, breathing in that little boy smell of graham crackers and shampoo. What did you make? Spaghetti, he announces proudly. With meatballs! Brianna appears from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a towel. She's wearing jeans and a simple sweater, her hair pulled back in a ponytail. No makeup, no performance. Just her. Hey, she says, and there's a warmth in it that would have seemed impossible 3 months ago. Come in. Theo's finishing up dinner. The house feels different. Lighter, somehow. There are still toys scattered around and dishes in the sink, and all the normal chaos of a family with a toddler. But the tension that used to permeate everything is gone. We sit down to dinner, spaghetti that Theo definitely made with Noah's help, which means there are meatballs of wildly varying sizes and enough garlic to ward off vampires for a decade. It's perfect. So, Theo says, once we've all filled our plates and Noah is happily destroying a meatball with his hands. Brianna and I have been talking, and we want to propose a repayment plan. He slides a folder across the table to me. Inside is a detailed spreadsheet, because of course my architect son made a spreadsheet, showing proposed monthly payments, interest calculations, which I've repeatedly said I don't want, but apparently they're insisting on a token 1%, and a timeline for paying back both the mortgage assistance and the credit card debt. This would have us paid off in 7 years, Brianna explains. We know that's longer than ideal, but we wanted to make sure the payments were sustainable even if something unexpected happens again. We don't want to promise something we can't deliver. I look at the numbers. They're reasonable, responsible, and would indeed pay everything back with a small amount of interest. But more than that, I can see the pride in their faces, the dignity of knowing they're not just taking, but participating in their own recovery. This looks well thought out, I say carefully, and I appreciate the effort that went into it, but I want to propose a modification. They exchange nervous glances. What if, I continue, we reduce the monthly payment by 20%, but you put that 20% into a savings account for emergencies. Build yourselves a cushion so the next crisis, and there will always be a next crisis, doesn't devastate you the way this one did. I can see Theo working through the math in his head. That would extend the repayment period by almost 3 years. I know, and I'm okay with that if you are. Because honestly, what matters more to me than getting paid back quickly is knowing you're building financial stability, that you're learning to save instead of just survive. Brianna's eyes are shining. You'd really do that? Even after everything? Especially after everything, I correct, because everything taught us all how to be honest with each other, how to ask for help and offer it without shame. That's worth more than money. We talk through the details over dinner, adjusting numbers and timelines until we land on something that feels right to all of us. Noah loses interest and starts singing a song about dinosaurs, which provides perfect comic relief whenever the conversation gets too serious. After dinner, while Brianna puts Noah to bed and Theo loads the dishwasher, I stand in their living room looking at the photos on the wall. There's one of Richard that I haven't seen before. He's holding baby Theo, both of them laughing at something off camera. My husband has been gone for 3 years, but in this moment, I can feel him here. Approving, proud of how we've all fought to stay family even when it was hard. He'd like how this turned out, Theo says, coming to stand beside me. He's looking at the same photo. Dad always said that family isn't about being perfect. It's about staying together through the imperfect. He was right, I agree, about that and many other things. Are you okay, Mom? Really okay? Theo turns to look at me fully. With your own life, I mean, not just with us. It's a good question, one I've been asking myself in therapy twice a week for 3 months. I'm getting there, I tell him honestly. I've joined a book club, started volunteering at a women's business mentorship program. I'm even thinking about consulting, helping young entrepreneurs avoid the mistakes I made. Building a new life instead of hiding in the ruins of the old one. That sounds like Dad's influence, Theo says with a soft smile. He always said retirement should be a transition, not an ending. He was insufferably wise sometimes, I say, and we both laugh. Brianna comes back downstairs, and the 3 of us sit together in the living room, the same room where everything exploded 3 months ago. But now we're drinking tea and talking about normal things, about Brianna's blog taking off, about Theo's new firm, about Noah's obsession with dinosaurs, about my book club's terrible taste in novels. When it's time to leave, Brianna hugs me at the door. It's not awkward or performative. It's real. Thank you, she whispers, for not giving up on us, for choosing to stay even when we gave you every reason to leave. Thank you for letting me stay, I whisper back, for letting me be part of fixing what we all broke together. Driving home through Manhattan streets, I think about how much can change in 3 months. How much can change in one afternoon, really, if people are willing to be brutally honest and vulnerably present. My apartment doesn't feel like a mausoleum anymore. It feels like home, my home, with photos of Richard and Theo and now Noah on every surface, with plans for tomorrow and next week and next year, with space for grief and joy to coexist the way they always do in real life. I pull out my phone and look at the last text from Theo, sent just after I left. Love you, Mom. See you next week for Noah's birthday? Wouldn't miss it, I text back. Love you too. And I mean it, all of it. The messy, complicated, imperfect love that families are built on. The kind that survives dish towels thrown in anger and secrets exposed, and jobs lost and pride swallowed. The kind that Richard and I built together, and that I'm learning to maintain alone. The kind that isn't perfect, but is perfectly real, and in the end, that's all any of us can ask for.